Hopefully that email that you got with the panelist login also has a call-in number. So this is, Karis makes a great point. What I will do, I guess, is instead of waiting to introduce everybody when you do your sections, and really when we get down to your contributions, really, once we get to your slide, feel free to start talking at that point. But why don't we go ahead and do brief introductions really right at the beginning. So what I'll do is I'll just get things started, and I'll welcome people. I'll show them the main slide, and then I'll say who I am and describe myself and my surroundings. And then I'll call out your names and ask you to do the same. Introduce yourself, where you're from, organization, whatever you'd like to say, and then describe yourself and your surroundings. So does that sound good? Okay, terrific. Great. Oh, good. Looks like I got my poll to work, so that's nice. So I think we're in good shape. And hi, Sydney. Thank you for being here.
Hey, no problem. So guys, we'll have the Q&A and the chat open. So if you just want to check those intermittently, because people will ask questions there, that'll be helpful.
That is a great reminder. And again, just want to let everybody know that we're fortunate to have some attendees that have already joined us. So I just want to let you know that we've got 19 of your closest friends and colleagues in LA County who are already on. And you can see them by looking at the participants, clicking the participants button, and clicking on attendees. But as Sydney pointed out, we would really love to respond to Q&A, the question and answer, so you can click on that. And I'll be letting people know that they can enter questions that they may have for us. They could really be about pretty much anything. Feel free to go ahead and respond to those if you'd like, or raise them as an issue for us to have a conversation about, whatever you'd like to do. I'd also love it if you kept an eye on chat as well. That's the button on the very bottom, and click on chat. You should be able to see the comments that people are making, and feel free when we get to the dialogue conversation portion of this to say, hey, so-and-so raises this as an issue or says that they do this. I think that's really interesting or really neat, or whatever you'd like to do. So I'll probably be talking through this time period like a radio host or a TV host, but I'm happy to have you interrupt me or say, hey, Mark, I saw a really great chat and I want to share that with everybody. So feel free to do that. Also, make sure when you use chat, and I would love for everybody to use chat, attendees and panelists throughout this conversation, make sure when you go to the to button, you'll hear me describe this to people a number of times, make sure the to button says all panelists and attendees. That'll make sure that it gets out to everybody. I think the default is to all panelists. So, but once you set it to all panelists and attendees, it should stay that way. Obviously, if you're trying to send something privately to one person, make sure that you have the right to that. But I don't think we'll have any, behind the scenes conversations going on here today. So hopefully all of that makes some sense. Yes.
So speaking of which, on the chat part, are you going to be saving chat and saving the recording? And when you save chat, do the private conversations also get saved? I think we want to make sure people understand kind of what kind of information they're putting in there. Do they want that information in there? Do they want it shared? Those sorts of things.
Yep. So I'm certain it saves the chat. And Sydney, maybe you can help me. I don't think it saves the private conversations, but we'll definitely make sure that we scrub any private conversations. But I'm pretty sure those aren't saved. So that's one thing that I remembered. And yes, we'll also save the chat, and that'll be one of the options that people will be able to take a look at later. We also get the transcription as well. It will be the Zoom transcription, which is not perfect, but it's better than nothing. So we will have that as well. So we have 3 minutes to go, and we have about 37 attendees along with us.
Mark, just to clarify, so there's no closed caption on this, correct?
We closed caption. I actually have never used the live closed caption. So the answer is no. I'm almost afraid to click on it because we've never used it before. Yeah, so it's not live closed caption.
Hey,
Hi,
Mark.
sorry,
Yes, Sydney?
So I cannot share to Facebook Live because of host settings. If you're a host, can you make me a co-host?
Can you try to contact Gretchen really fast?
Yes. Yeah, I'll do that.
And yeah, because I haven't cleared my cookies.
I have a question. I'm on there twice, one with my name and one with the other PRC. I only clicked on once.
Would you like me to remove the one with the full name and not the PRC?
Yes, please.
I will see how to do this. Oh, Sydney, I think I can make you co-host if you're not already, but okay, I'm going to try to remove. There we go.
Thank you.
And
is there anything, sorry I came in late, my computer, is there anything I need to do or that you need me to do?
no, I don't think so, Anna. You've already done lots of great stuff. So thank you for everything. I hope that was the answer you were looking for. All right, I'm going to try to make sure I can share the right screen. Don't want to share that one. I think I'm going to share this one. Great. All right, and hi, welcome everyone. We're going to get started in a couple of minutes. As commonly happens with these types of things, it's probably best to start a couple minutes late. So it penalizes those of you who get in on time, but hopefully you understand, and that'll be okay. It's usually just a little time for people with technical difficulties and those kinds of things. So thank you for your patience. Also, the other thing for all of us as panelists, if you want to go ahead and mute when you're not talking, that's usually best. But obviously, there'll be times where you want to talk and you're muted. So I'm sure we'll say, hey, Mark, you're muted. So. Everybody's able to see the main slide, is that correct?
Yes.
Great, thank you. I'll just give it one more minute and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? Good morning to everybody in California. Good afternoon to me. I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. My name is Mark Salzer, and I'm a professor at Temple University and also direct the Temple University Collaborative on Community Inclusion. I wanted to welcome you to our event today. The event we're calling Staying Connected While Keeping Apart, an LA County conversation about connections and meaningful activity in the area of COVID-19. I want to, on behalf of my fellow panelists, really welcome you to this event today and thank you for taking the time to join us today. We are intentionally calling this a conversation because we're looking for as much input and dialogue with you as possible. So this isn't just going to be us teaching you or providing you with information. We want it to be just as much about you providing us with information as well, about the kinds of things that you're doing to support other people in staying connected and engaging in meaningful activities like everyone else. Before we get started with today's conversation, I actually wanted each of the panelists to introduce themselves, and then we'll talk a little bit about what we're planning to do today. And again, I'm Mark Salzer. I am a white male who has not recently shaved, so I've got a little bit of scruff on my face, shortish hair above my ears, and I am sitting in my living room in just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But the photo that I'm using as my background is the Delaware Bay in New Jersey. It is one of my happy places. My family and I rented this house last year for a month. It was pretty extravagant. But we had this beautiful view overlooking a bay, which looks like an ocean. It's that wide. And we get to see beautiful sunsets and watch beautiful thunderstorms roll in. So anyway, that's me. Why don't we go to David?
Hi, this is David Israelian. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Painted Brain. I'm a Middle Eastern male with a beard that's fairly trimmed. I'm located in Los Angeles, California on a bright sunny day with a gray background.
Thank you, David. Karis?
Hi, everyone. I'm Karis Myrick, and welcome. So glad people are here today. I'm with the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health, where my role is Chief of Peer and Allied Health Professions. I am a female presenting African American Muskogee Creek woman. I go by pronouns she, her, they, them. I'm sitting in my living room. I'm wearing a black shirt. I'm wearing a Hello Kitty hat with a red bow. Supposedly a militant beret, but it's got the red bow, so I guess it doesn't really work. But and my background is in my living room is white walls and a window off to my left where the sun is coming through. So glad everyone's here.
Thank you, Karis. Jason?
Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Jason Robison. I'm the program director for SHARE, the Self-Help and Recovery Exchange in Los Angeles. I am a person in long-term recovery. I'm a cisgen white male, balding. My beard is significantly more gray than David's and much more scruffy than Mark's. And I am wearing a green jumpsuit because I'm coming into the office at Share Culver City and we take precautions in the age of COVID. And I'm grateful to be here and really glad that everybody's here. So thanks.
Thank you, Jason. Rachel?
I think
My name is Rachel Chambers, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Painted Brain. We were asked to describe our background and what we look like. I'm an African-American woman, brown skin, curly bangs, a scarf that's colorful, and my background is trees, and I'm in sunny Southern California. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Rachel. Ashley?
Hey everyone, my name is Ashley Flores. I'm the core program coordinator for Project Return Peer Support Network. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a Hispanic female presenting. I have long curly hair. It's very interesting to try and describe myself, but I have long curly hair. I'm wearing a white shirt that's long sleeved. My background is decorated with a cactus watercolor tapestry, as well as a decorative fringed pillow that's white. And I'm resting my arm and actually playing with a mustard yellow blanket.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Elena?
Hi everyone, my name is Elena Nori. I'm Hopi, Cherokee, and Chicanx. I'm been born and raised on Tongva territory here in LA County, and I'm representing Indigenous Circle of Wellness. I use she, her pronouns. It is very interesting to describe yourself because you don't often have to think of, how you would. But I am sitting in my living room. Behind me, there is a Hopi butterfly mating painting. I am femme presenting. I have long, dark hair, long beaded earrings, and I'm native in Chicanx. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Gretchen, I actually see you next. I didn't know if you were planning to say anything, but my colleague Gretchen Sneathen's here helping out with technology. So I won't make her say anything, I think, unless she wants to. So I think Link Shantae? Is anybody there? Dave?
Hi, this is Dave Leon. I am a cisgendered male, Jewish background, Caucasian. Not religious, but I'm very Jewish culturally. I read the New Yorker constantly, that kind of thing. I am have let myself go a little bit. I did not shave this morning. My background, I'm sitting on the floor in my bedroom, and I'm tearing pages out of magazines to create art kits for some folks that are living in shelters that we're going to be working with in the next couple of weeks. So I'm tearing out pages that people can use for collage to keep themselves busy while they're stuck in quarantine. It's a pleasure to be here, y'all. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Dave. Lori.
Hi, yes, good morning. My name is Lori, and I am a mental health advocate for Department of Mental Health Peer Resource Center, and I identify as Latina. I am in a place in my home where I call the red room. All the curtains are red, couches is red. That's where I made my home office. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I am wearing a statement piece. It's a gunmetal jewelry, very shiny, beautiful black rocks.
Great. Thank you very much. And, oh, shoot. I do not have A. Garcia's first name easily available, so I apologize about that. Did you want to introduce yourself?
Angelica.
Okay, thank you. And you're on mute now. All right. Well, very good. I want to thank everybody again for being here. We have 134 attendees, which is great. We really appreciate you all being here today. So I wanted to give a little more formal welcome about what we're going to be doing today. I did want to start out by acknowledging that we're living in very challenging times. Beyond the COVID-19 situation, we're having a lot of dialogue about race and ethnicity, right now as well, and it's important for us to recognize that. And I wanted to take the opportunity to say Black Lives Matter. The purpose of this conversation, or the background of this conversation, has to do with COVID-19. And my experience back in March when COVID started occurring, and there were lots of conversations nationally about social distancing, and it's important from a healthcare or a health standpoint and a public health standpoint, is one of the first things that I thought about the concept of social distancing is that really the thing that we need most right now is social contact and social connections. And to continue to support people, all of ourselves, but everyone around engaging in meaningful activities. So my colleagues and I at our center at the Temple University Collaborative on Community Inclusion have been thinking a lot about how during a pandemic, while we're sheltering at home, how can we continue to support connections between people and people's engagement in meaningful activities while sheltering in place. Our center is about community inclusion and participation. By that, we mean work, people with significant mental health issues who are working, going to school, dating, parenting, engaged in leisure, recreation, engaged in faith community, citizenship, voting, volunteering, advocacy, anything that anybody does that's meaningful in their lives. Our center is about doing research into what are the factors that affect community inclusion and participation, and what are the interventions that we can use to promote community inclusion and participation. And my colleague Gretchen Sneathen, Brian McCormick, and I have been thinking a lot about how we can continue to support family relationships, social relationships, and meaningful activity. Again, education, leisure, recreation, faith, all of these kinds of things while people are sheltering in place. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to, as briefly as I can, talk about some of the resources that we've created to help support people in keeping connected while maintaining physical distance from each other. We're also going to hear about some of the terrific things that are happening in LA County. The panelists represent these terrific organizations. They'll be later on describing each organization and talking a little bit about what they're doing to promote connections and meaningful participation now during the shelter in place that's happening and staying safe. And then at that point, we're going to be opening it up to everyone, to all of us, to have a conversation, to hear what your programs are doing, what you're doing around your own connections and meaningful participation. Really share with other people what you're doing, how you're supporting each other, and ideas, maybe new ideas you have for supporting people as well. I did want to point out that while we're starting to talk about reopening, actually Pennsylvania and the Philadelphia area, I think today is the first official day of reopening. We know that physical distancing is going to continue. And a lot of the issues that we talk about today will continue. We still want to support people around technology and engaging in meaningful participation, using technology and other ways of staying engaged and connected even while physically distancing. So the conversation isn't just about what could be done in the past. All of these things are things that we will likely or should be doing well into the future as well, even as we move towards reopening. Finally, we'll be spending about the last 15 or 20 minutes talking about future conversations. What are some topics or issues that you'd like to have a conversation about in LA County in the future? So that's our agenda. I did want to make sure that you're all aware that this conversation is being recorded. So please, in chat, and we will be opening it up for you to be able to talk by audio, please be aware that this is being recorded. We're also sharing it live on Facebook Live, assuming that I was able to do that correctly. And also we are saving the chat and making that available as well. All of this will be available at our website, tucollaborative.org. One of the things that I wanted you to definitely be aware of is we're looking for you to be as engaged as possible, including being engaged now. So you see at the bottom of your screen, there's a little icon, a little button that says chat on it. You can click on that button and another screen will pop up. It'll say "to" on it. And what you want to do is make sure the "to" goes to all panelists and attendees. That means you'll be sending a message out to everyone. So go in and give it a try now. Hit the chat. Make sure "to" says all panelists and attendees. And if you're willing, please go ahead and say maybe your first name or your initials, or make up a name. I'm Mickey Mouse from such and such a place. It's great to be here. So please go ahead and introduce yourselves. Also, throughout our conversation, even while the panelists are talking about the work that we're all doing, feel free to talk and share some of the things that you're doing to support connections and meaningful participation now. So please go ahead and fill up that chat, take a look at it, respond to your colleagues, your friends, everyone. Just go ahead and say hello. And I encourage the panelists to do that as well. There's also an opportunity to raise your hand. We'll be making this available later on in the conversation, where you'll raise your hand and I'll be able to recognize you and unmute your line for you to be able to speak by audio to everyone. So I'll let you know when that's available. And the last thing is there's a question and answer, a Q&A opportunity as well. That might be something that you could use if you have a particular question for the panelists in particular. You can enter it in Q&A, and the panelists will be reading this and responding to it. So if you want to say, hey, David, what's Painted Brain all about? You can ask there and you'll get a response from Rachel or David or somebody else about what's happening at Painted Brain or something like that. So hopefully all that makes sense. It looks like you all are using chat, which is awesome. So keep it going. So I want to briefly talk about, again, some of the work that we've been doing. Looks like David's trying to share some things right now, Dave Leon. So it looks good, Dave. I do want to mention that our work in the area of community inclusion of people with lived experience of mental health issues. Again, community inclusion refers to the opportunity to live in the community and be valued for one's uniquenesses and abilities like everyone else. The opportunity to work, to play, to go to school, to pray, to engage with other people, to maintain custody of your children, to vote and volunteer and hold public office. These issues that our center is about, the Temple University Collaborative on Community Inclusion, is a social justice issue. I like to point that out. This is something that I've been thinking, I always think about it, but especially these days with other dialogues that are happening, this is also a social justice issue. These issues also impact health. So work and going to school and dating and parenting and leisure recreation and voting and volunteering and faith are also all things that have been connected to all of our physical, cognitive, and mental health and wellness. So these are critical issues. Supporting people in maintaining connections, social connections, and meaningful participation is a critical social justice and health issue. This is why it's particularly important. In some of the conversations that we've been having around the country in North Carolina and Pennsylvania and Delaware and Washington State and New York State yesterday, I have been thoroughly inspired by a lot of really wonderful things that are happening around the country to promote connections and meaningful participation. And I want to share some of those briefly with you now. I wanted to first share some of the things that I've been doing to maintain participation, because again, these issues affect all of us. A couple of days after I began sheltering in place in my home, I participated in an Indigo Girls concert on Facebook Live. I hadn't seen them play for about 25 years. And there I was on Facebook Live during a very chaotic time, and it was amazing. I was with about 50,000 other people who were on Facebook Live, and people were posting things about how important this was and to be with other people who also liked the Indigo Girls music. And it was incredible. And these concerts are still happening now. And this is a way of supporting people and having that community experience, listening to artists that they like, and still participate if they have access to technology. And we'll be talking about that later. I've been doing video workouts. I did a virtual tour of Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water House in Western Pennsylvania. Take a look at it. It's pretty interesting. And I also did a virtual hike with a colleague in Oregon. I was getting ready to go to bed. I saw he was on Facebook. He brought his phone and was doing his Facebook Live thing, and it was pretty fun to be there with him as he was taking a walk. I've heard people give examples of doing things like organizing a potluck for their residential community. The way they did that is they contacted each of their peers in this residential community, asked them to put together an item, a food item to share with other people. People dropped it off at their door one by one to maintain physical distance. She organized it in her apartment, her unit, and invited people in one by one to share the food that the other folks in the residence had put together. And this was really incredibly creative way of staying in touch with people. Folks are taking walks with one another using FaceTime and Facebook Live. I've heard lots of examples of trivia nights that people are doing. Young people in Washington State are advocating around mental health funding and access to mental health services right now. So there's advocacy efforts that are happening even while people are sheltering in place. And there's a movement in Pennsylvania among peers to organize around increasing access to technology as well. There's some folks who have realized that technology, access to technology, data plans, smartphones, computers, all of those things is always incredibly important, but especially important now for people while they're sheltering in place. So these are some of the things that I've seen, and these are some of the things we'd love to hear examples of what you're doing in these particular areas. So our center has developed a document called Resources for Remote Community Participation. And Sydney, if you could actually put the web address in chat, that would be great. This is a document my colleague Gretchen Sneathen and Brian McCormick and I were involved in developing this as well, and some of the slides and information we put together were done in partnership with them. This document includes some information about how to support people in getting access to technology, what technology is available, how do you support people in getting smartphones or iPads or computers, how do you find out what's available in LA County or California, what major carriers are providing free or extra minutes for people. And also this document includes a list of how to support people in using technology. One of the things that we found is that there are a fair number of people with mental health issues who have technology, but folks don't know how to use Zoom or Skype or WebEx or those kinds of things. I actually believe Painted Brain is providing some training and resources in this area, but there are also online trainings available as well. I also know peers are supporting one another in less formal ways, more one-on-one ways, and really encouraging this. One thing we like to emphasize is this isn't just a one-time deal. This isn't just a COVID-19 thing. This should be a constant thing. we should really be supporting people around access to technology and use of technology all the time, and not just for mental health reasons, really supporting people in staying in touch and doing things and being engaged in their community using technology just like everyone else. This document also lists a number of resources that are available online, high-tech participation around volunteering and religious participation, leisure recreation, cultural activities, ways of staying engaged with family and friends, education opportunities, online courses, podcasts, all of these kinds of things. So take a look at this document. We list tons of things that are available. And really, we're encouraging providers to use this information to support people in participating in meaningful activities that they're interested in. A lot of these resources were available pre-COVID, and they'll be available post-COVID, and it's really important for us to support people. This document also includes some information about low-tech opportunities for participation for those folks who don't have computers and cell phones and all that kind of stuff, data plans. So use of telephone. For example, there are opportunities to pray with somebody else by phone, opportunities to listen to stories and podcasts. I guess they wouldn't be podcasts if they're by phone, but there's a way of doing things using the telephone, and we list those in this document. We also list no-tech participation opportunities during shelter in place or while we're physically distancing. What are some ways to continue to do some of these meaningful things using low-tech options? I just wanted to briefly mention that we want to highlight some strategies for supporting participation. Our center has developed a couple of different approaches. We've been supporting people right now in telling their stories, including through a story slam process about the importance of community inclusion and participation in their lives. So this is something that could be done by phone or Zoom or WebEx or Skype or whatever. So it's a way to get people to continue to talk about what's important to them, what they like to do, what's important. Connections RX is a more one-on-one type of approach for supporting people, where there is a recreational therapy student from Temple University who's talking to people about what they like to do, and then getting together in a Facebook group with other people to share ideas and resources for how to stay engaged in meaningful activities. So you can look at our website to find out more about Connections RX. Finally, I want to mention this Strive for 5 campaign. This is something that's been developed by the New York Association for Psych Rehab Services and the Coalition for Behavioral Health in New York City. The idea here is to support people in connecting in pods, I like to call them, of 5 people who agree to get together and stay in contact with each other by phone, by Zoom, by FaceTime, by whatever, and just check in every day to see how they're doing with their wellness, mental health, maybe substance use issues. We're trying to encourage people to also talk about, what are they going to do today? What are you up to? Are you going to watch a concert online? Are you going to go do that Frank Lloyd Wright virtual tour or tour the Louvre online or something like that? We encourage people to do things maybe together, or both agree to do them and then come back tomorrow and talk about what they learned or what they saw, or those kinds of things. So these are some different strategies for supporting participation, and we're sure you've got lots of other things that you're doing, and would love to see them on chat and by audio later. So at this point, you've heard enough from me, and I'm sure I've gone longer than I wanted to. And I want to turn it over to Karis. Karis, take it away.
Okay, let me, all right, hi, yeah, thanks. So thank you, Mark, so much for laying the groundwork. And just so people know, we're very fortunate to have Dr. Salzer do this for us through the Temple University Collaborative on Community Inclusion and partnership with LA County DMH. Sometimes when you work for a county system, we can't use things like Zoom or some of the cool things that everybody's using. So it's nice to be able to do this in a way that everybody can participate. So thank you, Mark, for this opportunity and for having come to LA pre-COVID to do a large training for us on the importance of community inclusion and participation as a medical necessity. But I'll also add during this time that you know, it's a tough time. The COVID thing is tough. The racial injustice and all of this is just a seriously tough time. But what better time to talk about the importance of social connection when many, many people are trying to divide us. But here we are talking about the importance of social connection. Even though we're doing it virtually, I wish I could reach out and touch each one of you. But, you know, I'm going to talk a little bit about my personal life. LA County is doing a lot. DMH, we're huge, as we know, with directly operated and contracted agencies doing so much. There's no way I can point you to one place and say, here it all is. So luckily we have just a small grouping of folks who'll give you a taste of our large buffet of offerings in the county. But you know, I find myself too kind of struggling with being home or kind of worrying about kind of what's happening and trying to remain connected. And one night I was having a really tough time and I decided to text one of my friends. And though it was on text, it was a way for me to be connected. And that friend does not live in this state. So talk about physical distancing, right? So they don't live in this state. I was having a tough time. And I know my voice sounded like this, though it wasn't text. I was like, tell me a story. I can't go to sleep. You know, it was like one of those things. I was all whiny because I couldn't sleep. I was worried about work and how are we going to do it all and how are we going to help people. So I said, you know, it's night. Just tell me a story. And I said, you know, I'll start like, I don't know, a long time ago in a land far away. And the next thing I know, he was texting back part of the story. And then I was texting back. And then he was texting back. And then I was texting back. And this kind of went on a couple of times. And I didn't really much think about it because I actually fell asleep, which is what I was wanting. I was struggling with falling asleep and kind of staying connected. When I woke up the next day, I was looking at my phone, just catching up, and I see these texts back and forth, and I pulled them off the text and just put them in a Word document. I'm like, holy camole, this is a story. It's like a real story. Like we just wrote a kid's book. It's so funny that I thought it was so cute. So I asked one of my other colleagues, because I could picture what was happening in this story. I could just picture it. I could have pictures in my head, but I don't draw. So I asked one of my friends, hey, do you know somebody who might illustrate this for me? And I wanted to give it to my friend as a thank you for kind of hanging out with me all night, telling me a story, even though we wrote the story together. And lo and behold, somebody said, yeah, I got this perfect person, and they're in another state. So we send them the document, and what you see is just one of the illustrations and the name of our fable, What a Ruler Measures. And it really, I think, served, at least for me, about a way that 3 different people can connect. 2 of them are unknown to one of the third person, and the third person is the illustrator, Lawrence Rosner Larry, who lives in a different state. He's a person like myself who has lived experience. He lives in a very, very rural area. You know, and I've been given permission to share this, that, you know, he struggles with connecting with people, eye contact. I don't do eye contact. I was like, wow, I don't do eye contact either. Cool. So here we are kind of finding that we have these similarities. He also struggles with the internet and struggles with the internet in that he lives in a very rural area. So for him to be able to share, draw the illustrations, share them with me, and et cetera, he has to go into town or somewhere where he can get a stable internet. So I heard back that, you know, for Larry, this was so meaningful for him and gave him so much motivation and connected him to others, that this project was more about, it wasn't a project at all. And it wasn't about me anymore being able to sleep at night. It turned into something really beautiful because of social connection across 3 states with 3 different people that now has emerged as a very beautiful, I think very cute story that gosh knows what we're going to do with it, but maybe one day you'll see it out there and you'll buy it off of Amazon for all I know. But I think it's just an example of sometimes it's hard for me to talk about maybe things I'm struggling with because of my role at DMH. I don't want people to think I'm struggling. I'm supposed to be this like strong leader, but at the same time I do. I couldn't have called my provider that night anyway. So being able to figure out how to socially connect and then have it turn into this beautiful thing. And my friend who was also staying up with me that evening was 3 hours ahead in time. So it was really early that morning. And they also confessed to me that they were struggling and how meaningful this was for them. So, you know, it's not ideal. I wish I could have picked up the phone, but you know, being able to stay connected, work through some of the stuff that's happening, and create these opportunities of meaning and purpose, I can't say enough about it. And I'm looking forward to hearing from the rest of the panelists and from our participants in dialogue about how are we doing this during this time? How will we continue to do it as we start to open up the county? Because we'll still have to be mindful of some of these things as far as physical distancing and the like, so that we have a both and of what can we do in person and what can we do, you know, via internet, phone, etc. So thanks so much for letting me share. I hope this gives people some ideas of things that they can do. And I have no idea who the next person is. So we'll just turn it over to the next person.
Thanks, thanks, Karis. And you've got a lot of fans on chat, so take a look at chat. A lot of folks are happy, love what you're doing. All right, Peer Resource Center.
Hi, yes. Good morning, everyone. So this is our contact information for the Peer Resource Center. Next slide, please. So of course, you know, the Peer Resource Center, you know, prior to COVID, you know, people would be able to come on in and charge their phone, get a warm meal, change of clothes, use the computers. Next slide, please. You know, they would be able to socialize amongst each other, join some of our workshops. And, you know, we had so much space, and now, you know, we've had to improvise and make a lot of changes. I just want to, you know, say that, you know, with everything that's happening over time, we see and recognize how these impacts unfold. And it is critical that we continue to care for ourselves, our families, our colleagues, our neighbors, and the communities that we serve. For us, it's been so hard having those doors closed because, you know, we're used to seeing our community coming in and getting the assistance that they need. Now that most of us are teleworking from home, we still need to continue to serve our community, but with a new innovative ways as we embrace this new norm. Next slide, please. So community members, you know, it was important that when they walked into our center, you know, they were able to talk if they needed to, you know, get advice, get resources, just that face-to-face interaction or having someone listening to them. It was pivotal. And so now that, you know, the PRC is closed, the doors are closed, but they're still open. And we're able to receive the calls, we're able to receive the emails. People go to the window and they knock and, you know, they let us know what their needs are. So we're still trying to, you know, come up with other ways. But during this time, we developed ways of having the community or those who had accessibility to computers and or phones to continue be involved with us, to have that interaction. I myself do the work readiness workshop. And for me, we just started the second cohort on May 7th. And we've already had 3 job placements. So the workshops provide career pathways and guidance and training to learn how to improve on, you know, basic job searching skills and to understand employment's expectations as, you know, individuals learn life skills needed to become self-sufficient. So a lot of people started losing their jobs, and you know, it was important that these workshops continued to be able to help reach out, even though it was through a video or the phone. And you know, so far since the second cohort started, you know, 3 job placements, and you know, to these individuals, it's huge in helping, you know, their families and stuff. But not only that, one of the things that we do, I like to teach is, you know, if you're not working, you're volunteering or you're educating yourself. So when I had 2 individuals who were like, okay, Lori, I'm not able to get employment in that type of sector, you know, it's going out. I was able to help them guide in who is able to pay for that training, for that vocational training. And then someone else decided to go back and get their master's. So, you know, continuing to guide and under this stressful time. So the vocational training was a huge part to this individual. It gave them a sense of purpose, and you know, it helped them realize that they could do different things. But guiding and assisting individuals to join the workforce and being finding their new career pathways is just a small part of continuing to be socially connected. The people that have received employment, they're my alumni, you know, from these cohorts. They're still able to reach out and talk about, you know, what's going on in their workforce, how, you know, they started showing up to work and all of a sudden they're not able to go back into the office. Next slide, please.